Ethan Cole lived an ordinary life. He was a man who fixed things, engines, machines, and sometimes broken fences. His small workshop sat at the edge of a quiet desert town, far from the noise of the world. Every morning he would drink his coffee in silence, look at the sunrise, and wonder if there was more to life than oil, dust, and loneliness. His parents had passed years ago, and his friends had moved on to bigger places. Ethan stayed, repairing what others threw away. He was good with tools, but terrible with people. He never imagined his quiet life would ever touch another world. It was late one night when the world changed for him. The sky was dark and heavy with wind. Ethan was driving back home from a late repair job. His old pickup truck rattled as it climbed the sandy road. Suddenly, the sky split open. A streak of blinding light tore through the darkness, followed by a sound like thunder mixed with a scream. It hit the desert floor somewhere beyond the ridge, sending up a wave of orange sand. Ethan slammed on the brakes, heart pounding. For a moment, he thought it was a plane crash, maybe a meteor, but something in his chest told him this was different. Against better judgment, he turned his truck toward the glow and drove into the storm of dust. The desert was quiet again when he arrived. The only sound was the soft hiss of wind. In the middle of a shallow crater lay something metallic, smooth, curved, and still glowing faintly blue. It wasn't like anything he had ever seen. The edges were melted like candle wax, but the shape was too perfect to be human-made. Ethan stepped closer, covering his face from the heat. Through a crack in the metal, he saw movement. His heart froze. Someone or something was inside. He pulled at the edges, burning his hands but not caring. Finally, the hatch gave way with a soft hiss, and Ethan looked inside. What he saw made him forget to breathe. A small figure lay there, tangled in wires and silver fabric. Its skin was pale with a faint shimmer, and thin lines of blue light ran along its arms and face. Its eyes opened slowly, large, almost human, but glowing faintly with sadness. The creature looked at him with fear and confusion. It tried to speak, but only a soft, broken sound came out. Ethan froze. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but something stronger kept him there. Empathy. The thing was hurt, scared, and alone. It didn't matter that it wasn't human. Pain looked the same on every face. He took off his jacket and carefully wrapped it around the creature's shoulders. "Hey," he said softly, trying to keep his voice calm. "You're going to be okay. I'll help you." The creature blinked slowly, its breathing weak and shallow. It didn't understand his words, but somehow it seemed to understand his tone. He carried it out of the wreckage and into his truck. The night air was cold, and the stars above seemed sharper than ever. As he drove home, Ethan kept glancing at the being lying on the seat beside him. It looked fragile, almost like a child, but there was something ancient about its eyes. Once or twice, it whispered strange sounds that the translator in his head tried to make sense of, but all he heard was a soft hum, like music from a dream. Back at his workshop, Ethan laid the creature on his workbench and cleaned its wounds with gentle care. It flinched at first, but soon relaxed, as if trusting him. "You're safe here," he whispered. "I promise." He didn't know why he said that. Maybe because he needed to believe it himself. He had spent years alone, surrounded by cold, metal and machines, and now suddenly something alive and extraordinary was under his roof. He didn't know if it was dangerous or if others would come looking for it. He only knew that he couldn't turn his back on someone who needed help. That night, as the wind howled outside and the desert cooled under the moonlight, Ethan sat in his chair, watching the creature sleep. Its breathing was slow but steady. The faint blue lines on its skin glowed softly, lighting the dark room with a strange, peaceful light. Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest, a feeling he hadn't known in years. He didn't know what this being was, where it came from, or what would happen next. But he knew one thing: helping it had been the right thing to do. He didn't know that his simple act of kindness, saving a wounded stranger from the dust, would soon make him the hero of an alien world. Morning light entered the workshop slowly, painting the floor with golden lines. Ethan sat on an old stool beside the strange being he had rescued. It was still sleeping on the workbench, covered in his jacket. Through the torn fabric of its clothes, he could see faint blue light moving under the skin like living veins. It looked peaceful now, though last night it had been shaking and gasping for air. Ethan had spent most of the night checking its wounds, cleaning the burns, and trying to stop the bleeding. He wasn't a doctor, just a mechanic, but his hands knew how to fix things, even living ones. When the creature finally opened its eyes, Ethan almost dropped his coffee mug. Its eyes were wide and shining, reflecting the morning sun. For a moment, they just looked at each other in silence. Two strangers from different worlds, bound by a strange accident. Ethan smiled nervously and said, "Hey, you made it through the night." The creature blinked and tilted its head, confused by the sound. Then it pointed at itself and said something soft, a sound like Leary. "Leary," Ethan repeated slowly. "That's your name?" The creature nodded weakly. Then it pointed at Ethan, waiting. "Ethan," he said, placing a hand on his chest. "My name is Ethan E." Then Leary repeated, struggling to say it. It sounded clumsy, but it made Ethan smile. Over the next few days, Ethan did his best to care for Leary. He kept the curtains closed and told no one. The small desert town didn't ask many questions, but he wasn't ready to explain why there was an alien in his workshop. Leary recovered slowly, sitting up more each day. It studied everything: the tools, the truck, even the simple radio on the shelf. Sometimes it would touch the metal and make it hum softly, as if communicating with it. Ethan watched in quiet amazement, wondering what kind of world Leary came from. One evening, Leary tried to speak again. Its voice was soft and broken, like a whisper carried by wind. "You, help me," it said through the translator device Ethan had found in the wreckage. The words were clear but mechanical. Ethan nodded. "Yeah, you were hurt bad. I couldn't just leave you." Leary looked down at its hands, glowing faintly blue. No one helped before. Its eyes shimmered, as if the memory brought pain. Ethan felt a sting in his heart. He didn't understand. Everything but he could see loneliness written on Leary's face, a loneliness that matched his own. He pulled a chair closer and said softly, "Well, someone had to start." Days turned into weeks. The bond between them grew quietly, like the gentle light of dawn. Ethan showed Leary simple things: how to eat food from a spoon, how to drink water slowly, how to sit outside at night and watch the stars. Leary loved the stars. It would often stare at the sky for hours, whispering words Ethan couldn't understand. Sometimes it smiled, other times it cried silently. Ethan never asked why. He just sat beside it, letting the silence speak for both of them. Then one night, something strange happened. Leary's wounds had healed almost completely, but its skin began to glow brighter than before. The faint blue light pulsed like a heartbeat, and the small device on its wrist came alive, projecting shapes and symbols into the air. Ethan stood back, amazed. "What is that?" he asked. Leary touched the symbols and spoke quickly in its own language. The translator struggled to keep up, but a few words broke through the static. "Signal, coming, danger." Ethan frowned. "Danger? From who?" Leary looked terrified. "Hunters," it said. "They come for me. They find signal." Ethan's stomach dropped. He looked at the window, half expecting to see something in the sky. "Then we have to shut it down," he said. Leary shook its head slowly. "Too late. They find me soon." For a long moment, silence filled the room. Ethan could feel his heartbeat echoing in his ears. "Then we'll be ready," he said finally. "I won't let them hurt you." Leary looked at him with wide eyes. "Why?" it asked softly. "You owe nothing. You risk much." Ethan smiled sadly. "Because it's what people are supposed to do. We help each other. Or at least, we should." Leary touched his hand gently. "Kindness," it whispered through the translator. "You give it freely." The air felt heavy with meaning. Ethan didn't fully understand what that meant to Leary, but he saw the gratitude in its glowing eyes. At that moment, two beings from different worlds shared the same truth. Compassion didn't need a language. That night, while the desert wind sang against the windows, Leary slept peacefully for the first time. Ethan sat nearby, staring at the faint blue glow on the floor. He didn't know what kind of hunters were coming, or how soon they would arrive. But he knew one thing: he would stand between them and Leary, no matter what it cost. He had no idea that this promise, born from a simple act of kindness, would carry him beyond Earth, into a destiny greater than he ever dreamed. The night air was unusually still. Ethan had barely slept, keeping one eye on the shadows beyond the workshop windows. Leary sat quietly on the workbench, its small hands glowing faintly as it fiddled with the device that had projected the warning. Its eyes, wide and anxious, flicked toward every sound outside. Ethan felt his own pulse quicken with every rustle of the desert wind. He had no idea what kind of hunters were coming, only that they were fast, precise, and deadly. Suddenly, the sky tore open. A blinding light sliced through the darkness, accompanied by a low, humming roar that shook the ground beneath them. Ethan's truck rattled in the garage as the wind slammed the door. He pulled Leary close and held it tightly. Through the window, he could see shapes descending, sleek, metallic vessels that hovered silently, almost as if they were slicing through the night itself. Their surfaces reflected the stars like liquid silver. A piercing beam of light scanned the desert, and Ethan felt a cold weight of fear pressing against his chest. "They're here," Leary whispered, its voice trembling. Its glowing hands were pressed against Ethan's chest, as if drawing strength from him. "Hunters. They will take me. Must hide, must hide." Ethan didn't hesitate. He grabbed Leary's small frame and ran to the truck. The vehicles outside didn't move like normal ships. They were alive, almost like predators in the sky. Ethan's hands shook as he started the engine. The old truck roared to life, gravel and sand flying beneath the tires. "Hold on," he shouted, pressing his foot to the gas. Leary wrapped its glowing arms around him tightly, clinging as if letting go would mean the end of everything. A beam of light sliced the road behind them, melting the sand into black glass. Ethan swerved hard toward a narrow canyon, tires squealing, heart pounding. Leary's small voice whispered to close, but Ethan didn't slow. He couldn't. The desert was the only place he knew, and he would use every twist, every shadow, every canyon wall to keep them safe. The hunters' ships moved like a pack of wolves. Beams of light swept across the sand, searching, calculating, killing. Ethan ducked instinctively as a narrow beam passed just inches above the roof. Sparks flew from the metal of his truck as the heat grazed it. He gritted his teeth, pushing the engine past its limits. "Almost there," he muttered, more to himself than to Leary. Finally, Ethan spotted the canyon's mouth. It was narrow, jagged, and impossible to see from the sky. He turned sharply, the tires digging into the sand. Dust rose around them, creating a thick, swirling wall that hid them from the hunter's view. Leary's glowing hand stretched toward Ethan, creating a strange shimmer in the air. The light bent around them, forming a protective bubble. Ethan could feel the warmth radiating from Leary's small frame. Somehow, the creature's fear had become strength, a shield against the impossible. When they finally stopped, both panting and shaking, Ethan looked at Leary. Its glowing eyes met his. "They will not stop," it said softly. "They come for me, always." Ethan reached out, placing his hands on Leary's shoulders. "Then we fight together," he said firmly. "I don't know who they are or why they want you, but I'll be the wall between you and them. You're not facing this alone." Leary's small hands pressed against his chest again, and for a brief moment, Ethan felt the pulse of something ancient, almost like a heartbeat that was not his own. Kind, human, strong, the creature whispered through the translator, its voice trembling. "Kindness makes strength." The desert wind roared around them, carrying the faint echoes of the hunters' ships. Ethan's heart pounded, not just with fear, but with determination. Every instinct in him told him to run, to hide, to save himself. But every ounce of courage told him to stay, to protect Leary, to face what came next. The sky shimmered with cold, metallic light, and Ethan realized something he had never imagined, that his simple act of kindness, saving a lost and wounded creature from the desert, had led him here, not to safety, not to glory, but to a battlefield where empathy and courage were the only weapons. He took a deep breath, tightened his grip on Leary, and whispered, "Let them come. I'm not letting you go." And for the first time, both human and alien understood that the night had changed forever. The portal shimmered like water under sunlight. Ethan had never seen anything like it. It hovered in the desert, a swirling circle of white and pale blue, almost humming with life. Leary stood before it, glowing faintly, trembling with fear and urgency. Ethan looked at the alien and asked, "Do we have to go through it?" Leary's glowing hands pointed toward the portal, then back at Ethan, as if pleading. The translator device's voice finally made sense. "It is the only way. You must come. They will find us soon." Ethan swallowed hard. The desert behind them still held the threat of hunters, their ships now faint shadows against the horizon. But what frightened him more was the unknown ahead. He had no idea what lay beyond a portal. The air shimmered around it, warm and strange, carrying whispers that felt almost like a memory he didn't remember. He tightened his grip on Leary's hand. "Then let's go," he said. Leary's glowing eyes reflected gratitude and relief, but also fear. The moment they stepped into the portal, everything changed. The wind disappeared. The sky was no longer black. Ethan felt the ground vanish beneath his feet, and then, with a soft pull, he and Leary landed gently on solid surface again. The air was thin but breathable, with a hint of sweetness he couldn't name. The sky was a deep violet, streaked with floating clouds of soft pink light. Towering structures hovered above the ground, shimmering like glass, reflecting the alien sun. Ethan could hear the soft hum of energy in the air, like a heartbeat of the world itself. Leary pulled him forward, moving quickly despite its small frame. Ethan noticed other creatures like Leary, running, hiding, some wounded, some looking lost. Their eyes flicked toward him and Leary with suspicion, fear, and curiosity. He realized this was no welcoming world. These beings were on edge, cautious, and exhausted. He felt a pang of guilt and hope at the same time. Hope because he had made it here. Guilt because he knew danger could follow them anywhere. Suddenly, armored figures appeared, moving swiftly through the violet streets. Their presence was commanding, their silver armor pulsing faintly. They stopped abruptly when they saw Leary with Ethan. Their golden eyes glinted with suspicion. One of them stepped forward, pointing at Ethan. "A human," it said sharply. "Why bring a primitive here? Do you not understand the consequences?" Leary stepped in front of Ethan, glowing brighter than before, as if using every ounce of energy to protect him. "He saved me," it said through the translator. "He did not know what I was, but he helped. That is why he is here. And now we need him." The lead soldier's gaze narrowed. The others whispered among themselves, voices carrying a mixture of doubt and fear. Ethan didn't flinch. He had faced danger back home, in the desert, but now he realized that the rules were different here. Fear and suspicion could rule a world just as much as weapons could. He could feel the weight of all eyes on him, judging him, testing him. "Then I will stay," Ethan said firmly, surprising even himself. "I don't know your laws, I don't know your world, but I know what is right. Leary needs help, and I am not leaving." The lead soldier's expression softened just a fraction, though his golden eyes still glinted with warning. Ethan realized that sometimes courage was not measured by strength, but by the willingness to stand for someone else. Leary's glow pulsed softly against his chest, almost like it understood what he was thinking. "You are not like them," it whispered. "You are different." The world of Serath stretched out before him, beautiful, strange, and full of danger. Every street, every hovering building, every creature seemed to hum with tension. Ethan had no idea what trials awaited him, but he knew one thing: he would not leave Leary's side. He had come to this alien world with nothing but kindness and courage, and somehow, that was enough to step into a destiny far bigger than he could imagine. That night, under the purple sky and pink clouds, Ethan sat beside Leary on a floating platform that overlooked the glowing city. "I don't know if I belong here," he admitted softly. Leary's small hand touched his arm, warm despite the alien energy. "You belong because you care," it said. "The world has forgotten this, but you're reminded." Ethan looked at the strange, beautiful horizon, feeling a sense of wonder he had never known on Earth. The journey had just begun. He didn't know the battles, the danger, or the mysteries that lay ahead. But he knew one thing: kindness had carried him beyond the stars, and for the first time in his life, he felt like he could make a difference. Ethan's first steps into Serath streets were like stepping into a dream turned cold. At first glance, the city seemed beautiful. Towers floated above violet streets, shimmering with alien light, and the air carried a soft hum of energy. But as he walked beside Leary, he began to notice the cracks beneath the glow. People hurried past, faces tense and eyes hollow. Children hid behind strange trees with glowing leaves, peeking at the humans and aliens who passed without kindness. Elderly beings crouched near walls, their eyes pleading for attention that never came. Ethan's heart tightened. Something was wrong here. Why does no one help each other? Ethan asked, his voice low. Leary's glowing hands pressed against his chest. They have forgotten. Mercy, kindness, weakness. It whispered through the translator. Ethan looked around. Everywhere he went, he saw suffering ignored. Wounded beings hobbled past soldiers who only glanced at them, their silver armor shining but their hearts cold. Ethan had never felt so alien in his own skin. Yet he understood this pain all too well. They reached a narrow alley where Leary motioned to some children hiding. Their eyes were wide with fear. Ethan knelt slowly, showing them his empty hands. "It's okay," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." One small child in shimmering green skin crept forward, holding a torn bag. Its voice was weak, but it spoke a word Ethan understood: hungry. Ethan opened his bag, offering what little food he had brought. The child's eyes glistened, and it hesitated before taking it. The glow in Leary's hands brightened slightly. "Small. Act still. Precious," it whispered. As they moved deeper into the city, Ethan saw more. A group of adults huddled around a broken energy generator, trying to repair it, but giving up as soldiers passed by, muttering about futility. Elderly beings begged for water, their voices ignored. Soldiers argued with each other instead of helping, enforcing rules that made no sense to Ethan. The air was heavy with fear, anger, and despair. He felt the weight of it pressing on his chest. That night, Ethan and Leary rested in a quiet corner of the city. Ethan's hands ached, but not from work. They ached from the sadness he had witnessed. Leary's small hands glowed faintly as it touched Ethan's arm. "You do not understand." Yet, it said softly, "This world, it teaches cruelty, not compassion. Mercy punished. Always." Ethan shook his head slowly. "That's wrong," he said. "It doesn't have to be this way. There's always a choice. We can help. We can care. That's never weakness." Leary looked at him, its eyes reflecting both hope and fear. "You, different. Stronger, because kind." Ethan smiled faintly, though his heart was heavy. "I just can't ignore someone who suffers," he said, "even if the world doesn't understand me." The next day brought the reality of danger closer. Soldiers surrounded them, suspicion and hostility clear in their golden eyes. Leary was trembling, and Ethan realized that the council, the rulers of this world, would never accept him so easily. They would see him as an outsider, a threat, a human who dared to care. And yet, for the first time, he felt a spark of resolve. He could not leave this world in darkness. He could not let fear win. As they walked back toward Leary's home, Ethan noticed whispers following them. People watched, some curious, some fearful, some inspired. A small girl pointed to Ethan, tugging her mother's hand and whispering, "He helps." Ethan felt warmth in his chest he had never felt before. It was small, fragile, but real. For the first time, he understood something Leary had tried to tell him. Kindness, even in a world that has forgotten it, can shine like a beacon. One small act can ripple across a city, across hearts, across a civilization. That night, under a violet sky lit by twin moons, Ethan sat with Leary once more. "I don't know if I can change this world," he admitted softly. Leary's glowing hands rested on his arm. "Not alone, but you can start." Ethan nodded. For the first time, he felt a sense of purpose greater than his small life on Earth. He realized that saving Leary was only the beginning. If he could keep helping, keep showing mercy, maybe one day this world could remember what it had lost. Ethan didn't know what challenges lay ahead, or how the council would react to his presence. He only knew one thing. He could not walk away. Not from Leary, not from the suffering around him. And perhaps, in a world that had forgotten kindness, that simple choice would be the beginning of something much bigger than he could imagine. The council chamber of Sereth was unlike anything Ethan had seen. It rose like a mountain of light, walls floating above the violet floor, shimmering with energy that made the air hum. The room was vast and cold, and the council sat on elevated platforms, their golden eyes glowing like distant suns. Soldiers in silver armor lined the edges, their expressions unreadable. In the center, Leary knelt in chains, its small hands glowing faintly as it struggled against the restraints. Ethan's chest tightened. He had never felt so far from home, and yet he knew he could not leave. The council leader, a tall figure with sharp features and eyes that burned with authority, spoke first. "This human," he said, his voice echoing like steel, "has brought corruption into our world. It has given mercy where there should be none. Such weakness cannot stand. He will leave, or he will be destroyed." Ethan stepped forward. His legs shook, but his voice was steady. "You call kindness weakness. I saw your people suffering, ignored, scared, and broken. I saw children hiding from those who should protect them, and I helped. I couldn't do anything else. I don't have weapons. I don't have armies. I only have this." He placed his hand over his heart, "and it is stronger than cruelty." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some soldiers glanced at each other, uncertain. The council leader's expression darkened. "You dare speak to us as though you understand justice?" he demanded. "You are a primitive, a human, nothing more. Leave, or be cast out forever." Ethan's hands clenched at his sides. He took a deep breath. "I am not leaving. Not Leary, not anyone who suffers in this world. You may have forgotten compassion, but I remember it. I can show your people that mercy is strength, that one act of care can inspire many. You can punish me. You can ignore me. But I will not stop." Leary's glow intensified, a radiant blue that lit the chamber. Its chains began to crack and fall apart. "He saved me," it said softly through the translator, its voice echoing around the hall. "Without reason, without reward. That is courage. That is strength. Your fear, your cruelty, it is smaller than the heart of a human who chooses kindness." The council chamber went silent. The golden eyes of the leaders narrowed, then softened slightly as whispers ran through the soldiers. Some lowered their weapons, unsure of the human before them. Others hesitated, looking at Leary, then at Ethan, and then at the people gathered in the back, citizens who had once been afraid. They were watching. They were seeing. The council leader's face turned red with anger, but Ethan didn't falter. He knew he was standing not just for himself, not just for Leary, but for every child, every elder, every being in Sereth who had been ignored and abandoned. He could feel Leary's small hand touch his arm, warm and steady. "You, different," it whispered. "You bring hope." With a deep, shuddering breath, Ethan raised his voice. "I did not come here to be a hero. I did not come here to fight councils or armies. I came here because someone needed help. And when one of us chooses to help, it gives others courage. You can see it in their eyes. Fear is only strong if you feed it. Compassion is stronger because it spreads. The glow from Lyri's hands pulsed faster, brighter, and suddenly the chamber seemed to shift. Soldiers lowered their weapons completely, some kneeling instinctively. Members of the council looked at each other in shock, realizing that power was not in weapons or authority, but in the truth that this human spoke. The council leader's golden eyes finally softened. He took a step back. Perhaps this world has forgotten what it means to be alive, he admitted, voice quiet, almost unsteady. Ethan nodded, feeling a surge of hope. Then let's remember, he said simply. One act at a time. That is enough to start. For the first time in years, the people of Sereth felt something they had not felt in a long while, a spark of hope. Ethan looked at Lyri, whose glow now bathed the chamber in warm light. He realized that the fight was far from over, but the first stand had been made. He had no weapons. He had no armies. But he had something the council had forgotten, a human heart willing to act. And in that moment, the chamber, the city, and even the distant stars seemed to hum with the power of a simple truth. Kindness can become a revolution. Ethan knew it would be hard. He knew they would face challenges, danger, and perhaps betrayal. But for the first time, he believed that even a single human could change a world. And that belief, a simple, unyielding courage born from kindness, was stronger than anything the council could throw at him.